No one can deny that this packaging is adorable. Hi everybody, today I'm taking a look at the Amy Tangerine Watercolor Set from the Stay Sweet collection. This came out, it's a pretty new product, it came out a couple months ago, and a few of you guys asked me to order it and take a look at it. Now when I ordered it, it was out of stock. I ordered it on Amazon and it showed up a couple weeks later once they restocked it. I was able to purchase it for $25, $24.99 on Amazon. And what it is a little travel kit. So this looks basically, if you got the Erin Condren summer seasonal surprise box like last year, the one that came with the sunglasses case, this is basically the same size and shape as a sunglasses case, right? So it's a little container that is like airtight basically, and then when you open it, it comes with everything you need for on-the-go sketching and so on and so forth. So you have a pencil, a fine liner, a little water container, a sponge, 12 watercolors, a water brush, and then a mixing tray. And it's all contained in one. That in and of itself is a fun reason to get a kit like this. I have seen little watercolor palettes that come with a brush that has a spot for the brush in it and like a mixing tray. But having all of these items together, there is just something really adorable about this. The packaging is super cute and it is just very appealing for on-the-go sketching or watercoloring. Tested this a few times now. Before I get into talking about the individual products, a couple of notes. First of all, there isn't any like real information on the box or on the website as to what like these are like in terms of the fine liner, what kind of fine liner it is, and blah, blah, blah. It's Amy Tangerine brand put out through American Crafts. In general, I have found with American Crafts, they are not always very informative when it comes to information about like whether the ink is light fast, whether the ink is waterproof, things like that. So I didn't really expect it, but it wasn't really there. The second thing I'm gonna note is that these watercolor pans, I sprayed them, so we'll talk about that in a hot minute, but they are in these little containers, and the thing I noticed, I wanted to find out if they would fit other half pan sized watercolors. So I pulled out one of my Prima watercolor situations, which also have half pans, and I pull one of those out, and these do not fit inside these little containers. They're too big. Now, whether or not they fit like neatly in here, yeah, they would, but they won't snap in. So refilling these with your other half pans, really not a thing unless you have half pans that are the exact same like size and setup as these little half pans. So that was a bummer to find out. I love this setup, but I might want to swap the paints out for different colors. That's not really something you can do, as a heads up. The case itself is plastic. This is all plastic right here. And we're gonna go through each of the items here individually. So the first item we have is a pencil. This is an HB pencil, just a standard little guy. Basic pencil situation. Not much you can say there. Now, this pen is the fine liner, and this has Amy Tangerine branding on it, and it is like a 0.5 tip, but it didn't say anything else. I will tell you, and I can show you here, and it's something you'll see a demonstration of this later on, that it is waterproof. So whatever else, I don't know if it's light fast, I can't tell you any of that, but this is a waterproof fine liner as I have tested it with watercolors on a couple of occasions. It does not dry very fast, as you can see, but it does have a nice fat line, and it is comparable in the way it looks to a Pigma Micron fine liner. Similar size, similar color saturation. This is a very serviceable 0.5 fine liner. Now the water vessel is just a standard little like situation where you have like a little tip here, and you can use this to fill your water brush or to put water in, like here for example, and use this as like a travel water well. And I don't know how much it holds. It doesn't hold a shit ton, but I will say, and I'll talk about this when I get to the water brush, that if you are going to use this for travel watercoloring, I would absolutely suggest that you fill this up, because the water brush does not have a very big reservoir in it. So having this is handy for having the water, and you know, it's super cute. It is cute. Now the little sponge is not something I've really used all that much. I guess you can use it, and we test it right here. We'll use a little bit of it. Put down some. And see, you can create some fun like looks with this. whether you want to create clouds or flower petals or whatever. You can also push the paint around. Like that would make some really pretty petals if you did that. So having the sponge is a nice little addition. Cleaning it would be a little bit of a pain in the ass on the go. A, as a tool, and B, as like a little mop would be really nice. Although I will say my personal wish would probably be to use this as a water reservoir rather than a sponge spot. That's personal. Now before we get to the paints, we'll talk about the water brush. So this is the water brush. I have very strong opinions about water brushes. I really, for me, the biggest issue with a water brush is, does it leak? This does not leak. So I appreciate that as a water brush. What I will say though, is that A, the reservoir is not very big, so you're gonna go through water quickly, hence needing to save up with your water. And B, and I'm gonna show you this here, when you clean it or when you bring water out of it, a thing to remember with this water brush, some water brushes, when you squeeze water out of them, they are not super spouty. Like there's a bit of a control on it. So when you squeeze water out, only so much water comes. I have some water brushes where you have to really squeeze it to get water to come out, and even then not a lot comes. This one, on the other hand, it basically dumps water out. So I basically emptied it right here. So when you're cleaning it or when you're trying to get water going, you need to keep in mind that A, when you squeeze it, water is gonna just come pouring out, so you may run out of water faster. And B, if you're trying to control how much water you're using, you may be better off dipping this into water and using it than squeezing it, because it will release like a shit ton of water. So but it does not leak. It's a nice bold water brush, which is nice for covering lots of big areas. The brush itself is pretty decent. You know, it stains like any water brush does, but it cleans off pretty well. Aside from the reservoir, the only real other issue I have is how small it is, but it kind of fits with everything else in this pack. I struggle with smaller things because of my tendinitis, but on the whole, it's a pretty decent water brush, especially considering that other water brushes that come in packs like this that I've seen, like water brushes that come with a watercolor palette, often are like leaky or kind of shitty. And so this is a decent water brush. I will use this more. And now we get to kind of the heart of this, which is, I'm getting paint all over my sweater. Yay, art. And that is the paints themselves. Now, these paints are not professional quality. I don't know what kind of grade they are. I'm assuming that they are the same kind of grade as like a Crayola. They're sold in the children's section, so they feel like children's paints. I'm gonna show you here, I went earlier and I swatched all of the colors, and what you will see is that they are not consistent when it comes to how pigmented they are. Some of the colors, like the red, like the orangey red, and the two blues, and the orange and the yellow, are nice and bright. But then other ones, the pink, the purple, the brown especially, no matter how much you kind of work them, they don't give you a lot. You can also see it here in this lettering that I did, like how much the pink is like kind of the odd man out with some of these other colors, the brown as well, in terms of how much pigment there is when you swipe the color. Now I will say, the first time I tried these with my patrons, I just went in with the water brush onto the dry thing and they did not work great, but I did find they worked a lot better if you spray them first. This is actually something, this is one of those things I never knew and I now know and I'm going to be using all the time. But if you spray your watercolors and let them sit for a few minutes, they get a lot better. They work a lot better. And these ones are included. Now it's hard to do that when you're out and about, but there is something to be said for getting them like drenched and then working with them where they're going to be a lot richer. They work okay for lettering, they work okay for swatching, and as you can see here in like the demonstration, they work good for painting. I would not say they are the highest quality watercolors in the world. The colors work, they blend together okay, like some of them are brighter than others, like I said. They do work okay when it comes to sketching, and as you can see here, they actually work really well with this fine liner. The fine liner doesn't bleed. One of the other things I did notice is that the two blues are fairly close together, but in practice they work really well. On swatching, they're not quite as distinctive, but when I'm painting with them, I actually like the mixture of them. So I would say that like these colors themselves, the way that they perform, like if you're expecting like a high-end watercolor, you're not gonna get that. But I don't think that that is the point of this palette. I think the point of this palette is to be able to create on the go. For me, the setup of the palette is worthwhile even if the paints are not my favorite. Now I'm going to show you really quick just a couple of comparisons between the paints in this palette and the paints in like one of my Prima watercolor palettes, which are also not the highest quality paints in the world, but they are stronger than the ones here. So we'll get the pink, which was arguably for me the most disappointing color in this whole Amy Tangerine palette. Like, this is about how much pink you get, and that's after it's soaked. That's with plenty of water. It's just not very vibrant at all, which bugs because you know, a lot of the other colors, like I love Amy Tangerine's bright, happy style, and so having that pink be so weak sauce was kind of disappointing to me. And so then here is the pink from the Prima Classics palette. And as you can see, it's just a lot more pigmented. There's a lot more color there. Now I'm gonna take one of the brighter colors from the Amy Tangerine palette. We'll go with this blue here. Nice and bright, much more pigmented than the pink. So there's the blue from the Amy Tangerine palette, and then I'm gonna show you the blue from the Classics palette. And so you can see here, it's not as dramatic of a difference, but there is a difference. And then we'll do the blacks. So this is the black from the Amy Tangerine palette. And this is the black from the Prima palette. These are a little bit closer, but you can see there's more color pulling out from the black than there is from the Amy Tangerine. I will say though that the white in this palette, while I tend to try and go with the whole traditionalist, white is, the white of watercolor is supposed to be the white of the paper. I tried it on black cardstock and the white worked okay. For adding highlights to your painting, I added some highlights here and then they dried and they're not there anymore. So I'm gonna go back in and see if I can add some highlights now that this painting is dry. I'm gonna go with a really dry brush, pick up some white here on the brush and add some highlights. And I'm gonna dry this, my dryer, and we're gonna see if the white dries down, like where it shows up or if it disappears again. As you can see, the white does work as a highlight, although it's not very bright. If you really want a bright highlight, I would go with a gouache, but it does work. You just need to make sure to use it on top of an already dry painting. If there's any moisture, it's just gonna disappear. So overall, looking at this palette, what are my thoughts on it? First of all, in terms of price, $25 is not inexpensive, but it's around the same price as these Prima palettes. Like, they tend to range between 20 bucks and 30 bucks. The Jane Davenport paints also can be 30 bucks if you don't use a coupon. But this set, even though the paints are not as vibrant as these other sets, it also comes with all of these other things. It comes with the travel case, it comes with the water reservoir, it comes with the brush and the sponge and the pen. The pen especially. The pen, out of all of the things, the pen and the water brush are both great quality. And so having a nice pen, nice water brush, and all of this in this little convenient travel set, I think is worth the price if you're looking for something like this. Not gonna lie, the cuteness of it, that gets me too. Is this something that's worth your money? It depends on if it's something you might want. Do I regret buying this? No, not at all. I really like it. I don't know if I'm gonna give it to my niece or if I'm gonna keep it for myself. I haven't decided yet. But the cuteness and the convenience of it outweigh the quality of the paints. But on the same note, don't buy this expecting to get the nicest paints in the world because you will be disappointed. As long as you are okay with the price and the convenience of it, and you're aware of how the paints are, you should be good to go. Is there any art supplies or watercoloring videos you would like for me to make? Please let me know in the comments below, as I am feeling less in a creative rut than I've been lately. I do want to start doing some more art videos and art supply videos, and I would love to know what it is you're looking for. So please tell me. Give me all the things you want. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video.